Each stop, you're welcome to get off the trolley at any one of the stops. And we'll keep doing this and come by every half an hour until 5 o'clock. As long as you are at any of our stops, by 5 o'clock, you will be picked up and brought back here and stopped at the one. So, we'll be all set. So I think we can take off from here. Let's see. A little bit of music, maybe.
Hello everyone, I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and today we're going to ride the Boston Old Town Trolley. And we're going to go all around Boston. This is my first time on Boston on Urbanist. I'm not going to talk too much because there's going to be a tour guide. Enjoy.
There we go. Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Sing, sing, sing went my heart sings. From the moment I saw him I fell. Alrighty, that is the lovely Judy Garland, and she is bringing us right here to the north end of Boston. You can see it says North End right in front of us. This is the oldest continually inhabited neighborhood here in Boston. It's been inhabited since the Puritans were here. That was the 1600s. By the late 1800s, this was all Irish. When it was all Irish, a lovely young woman by the name of Rose Fitzgerald was born here on the North End. She was baptized at St. Stephen's Church, where she had all of her sacraments. One of the sacraments was marriage. She married a guy named Joe Kennedy. That would make her Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, the matriarch of the Kennedy family. We loved her. We loved her here in Boston. We gave her a couple of presents. That fountain on the right-hand side is a present given to Rose. And originally in that circular wrought iron gate, there were 104 rose bushes given to Rose. They had a big surprise party for her 104th birthday. I personally don't think it's a good idea to have a surprise party for someone who was 104. That could have turned out badly. It did so. She had a great time. Someone said to her, "Hey Rose, how does it feel to be 104? She said, "It feels great. There's no peer pressure." Yeah, no peer at all when you're 104. I'm thinking, at least not back then. She was an amazing woman. She had a great time. And that was, let me see, then it came to the 1920s. By the 1920s, the entire North End was 90% Italian. This is now our Italian section. Hanover Street, Salem Street are the two major streets here in the North End. It's very old, it's very tiny, the trolleys are too big to get in and around there, but there's great restaurants, especially on Hanover and Salem Street, great pastry shops. The two most popular pastry shops are Mike's Pastries and Modern Pastries. At Mike's, they say if you've never had a cannoli from Mike's, you've never had a cannoli. But Modern Pastry across the street says, "What are you, crazy? We make you cannoli the second you walk in the door." You know, we don't have them prepaid like Mike's. We make them individually just for you. So that's kind of cool. But there's other pastry shops, so you can't get a bad deal in the North End. Just ask Paul Revere. He lived there. He lives in the North End in the smallest, oldest wood building in Boston proper. And he lived there with his lovely wife. Her name was Sarah Horn. Sarah and Paul had a fantastic relationship. They had 8 children. Oh, it's a very sad story, though. Sarah passed away shortly after the birth of her 8th child. Paul Revere was devastated by her passing. However, he did manage to remarry 5 months later. 5 months later, he had 8 kids. One of them was an infant. You know, he couldn't take care of all those kids all by himself. He was lucky he found a lovely woman in Rachel Walker, his second wife. And they had a great relationship. They had 8 more children. So he had 16 kids. He worked really hard. He was a tinsmith, a silversmith, a coppersmith. We're going to concentrate on the fact that he was a courier for the Sons of Liberty. Walked thousands of miles. We're going to talk about the midnight ride that he did. And the midnight ride was to counteract the British March. The British government knew that Sam Adams and John Hancock were committing treason. They were planning a revolution. They wanted to arrest them and take them to England and hang them. They didn't want to be hanged. They were hiding out in Lexington. The British government found out that the colonists were also stashing guns and ammunition in Concord. They planned to march to go to Lexington, arrest Adams and Hancock, then go to Concord, get the ammunition, nip the revolution in the bud. We counteracted with the midnight ride. Take a look at your left side, right up Henchman Street here. From brief moment, you will see the steeple of the old North Church. It is from that very window that the lanterns were held. They were held by Sexton Newman, because in the morning of April 18, 1775, Paul Revere saw the British Army congregating by Boston Common, which was by the sea in 1775. So he came here to the old North Church, and he talked to the sexton, and he said, said, hold the 2 lanterns. 6 Newman held those lanterns for less than 30 seconds. It was a quick signal to the Charlestown militia across Boston Harbor, and that's Charlestown, and the other midnight riders to let them know which route to take to avoid the British Army. Now, Revere had started his midnight ride, which meant he had to get over to Charlestown, the mainland, right across Boston Harbor. There was no connection to the mainland on this side of Boston. So he had to meet his friends who had a rowboat. He met his friends right here at this dirt pile, which of course wasn't here in 1775, but Revere's friends were here, and they had a rowboat right there. They had the oars wrapped in a very thick cloth. He was very quiet. They had to be quiet because right there anchored Boston Harbor, making sure no one got off of Boston proper, was the HMS Somerset. They were anchored there. Revere's friends were very careful. They were very stealth. They got him over to Charlestown, where he met his friend John Larkin. John Larkin and the friends. The rains to his fastest horse, Brown Beauty. Revere hopped on Brown Beauty, thanked John Larkin for the use of the horse, and then off he went on his midnight ride, which brings us to stop number 2, to the Old North Church, Revere's house.
So hello everyone, I'm on stop number 2 of the all Boston Trolley tours.
I do that.
Really cool tour company here, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm not narrating because there's a narration. I hope you can hear it. Let me know. And welcome to Boston, Beantown.
1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So while we're sitting here waiting for these people to hop on the trolley, take a look at the sidewalk. We have a red brick line there. That's the Freedom Trail. It's also a red line on your map. So if you look on your map, you can see the Freedom Trail there as well. Welcome aboard. Hi, welcome aboard. Hi, welcome aboard. Hi. 2.5-mile walking tour is what the Freedom Trail is. Thank you, sir. Welcome aboard, guys. Nice to have you here. A little running, did you, huh? All right, so we get Paul Revere. He's on his midnight ride. He's not the only midnight rider. There are quite a few midnight riders. Another one was Billy Dawes. Why do we know Paul Revere? Well, we know Paul Revere because Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a poet. He was not a historian. And he started the poem, Listen, my children, if we shall hear. Exactly, that was great. Thank you, yeah. Revere rhymes with here. So there you go. That was great. Thanks. That was good. All righty. So yeah, so that worked. But he could have done something different. He could have said, listen, my children, to for a very good cause. That would have the midnight ride of William Dawes. Billy Dawes was another midnight rider. But, you know, he used the word here, so we have Paul Revere, and that was fantastic right there. Thank you. That was perfect. Billy Dawes used a different way to get off of Boston. He used a skinny little neck on the other side of the tiny town, which was the only connection that they had. So he used that way. The 2 of them take off. They're not the only midnight riders. There's quite a few, actually. None of the midnight riders are saying, the British are coming, the British are coming. That would have been silly. The British are here. Everybody here pretty much is British. What they did say, they said very quietly, from house down to the regulars are about. The regulars are about. That's what they call the British Army, the regulars. And the regulars were everywhere. So by the time they got to Lexington, after warning Sam Adams and John Hancock to get the heck out of there, they asked this guy, Dr. Samuel Prescott, if he would help them complete the midnight ride. And it's a good thing they asked for his help because he is the only one to successfully complete the midnight ride. Poor Billy Dawes. He was riding like crazy trying to get from Lexington to Concord when he was hit by a low-hanging branch, knocked off his horse, rendered semi-unconscious. Poor guy. He was alright eventually, but he never completed the midnight ride. Neither did Paul Revere. Paul Revere was apprehended at gunpoint by the British Army. They confiscated his horse. They were just about to arrest him when they were distracted by gunfire. Paul Revere took advantage of that distraction. He took off. He ran back to Lexington. The only one to finish the midnight ride was Dr. Samuel Prescott. He got all the way to Concord. He told the people of Concord to move that ammunition, which they did. Because of that successful midnight ride, at 5 o'clock in the morning on April 19, 1775, the shot heard around the world was fired, and the American Revolution has begun. Huzzah! Yay! American Revolution. All right.
Really, American Revolution. Oh yeah.
The next battle that we had was the Battle of Bunker Hill, June 17, 1775. Take a look at the front. Oh, that goes on my brain. Take a look at the front left side of the trolley. You see that tall gray obelisk? That tall gray obelisk is the Montgomery Monument. It stands 221 feet high. There's an amazing view of Boston from the window at the top. It's closed, so you can't walk up the 294 stairs. I know you guys are about 294 stairs. I walked up all those stairs once in the 5th grade. That was because Sister Alicia told me to. Yeah, anyone knows. Everyone at Miss Catholic School has one of those now. Sister Alicia was mine. I'm still doing stuff she told me, but she's scared the heck out of me. Stop your self-discipline, though. That's a good thing. All right, we're coming up to stop number 3, which is our next stop. This is a great stop. I mean, you can't board the USS Constitution, but you should walk around the Navy Yard. You can see the USS Constitution. You can see the USS Captain Young. You can see a beautiful view of Boston Harbor and Charlestown. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Let's see if we take a look right here on the right-hand side.
So cool. Old industrial buildings.
Oh, it's the city view. You're just too far out here. Come on. Taking up the whole space. Let me pull up, because I don't want to do what he did, just do right in the middle. You know what, maybe I'll pull over the side and really squish myself in here where I'm stuck. But it can't take too long. All right, yeah, we're at number 3. Stop
Another.
3. All right, yeah, sure.
Oldest Navy ship still afloat. And welcome everyone. Minimal narration today because I'm on a guided tour, but I hope you enjoy. You'll be seeing me every day, Wednesday through next Monday, 1 p.m. every single day.
Oh, thank you. Very generous. I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the stop. All right. Alright, off we go. That worked out very well. Okay, so we're going to take off from stop number 3. And what I'm going to do right here is called making a U-turn. Anywhere else in the country. Here in Boston, this is called banging a Huey. You'll see people banging illegal Hueys all over the city. And we do this to give you, it has to be a nice smooth view. None of this 3-point, 4-point turns, none of that stuff. We do this to give you a nice view of the USS Constitution. She's absolutely beautiful. You can see her over there. Not as high tide. I think it's on its way out. But she's okay up there. Nice stern. She's the oldest commissioned warship afloat in the world today. So we can see, yeah, she's old. She is a warship. She is afloat. How does she stay commissioned? She stays commissioned every single year on the 4th of July by having many battles. She has a battle. She goes out into Boston Harbor. They decorate her in nautical flags from all over the world, and they have her sails billowing in the breeze. And you can't even notice the tugboat that's pushing her on the side, because she can't go in her own power. She's an old ship. But she does. She goes out into Boston Harbor. It's usually the 4th of July. Thousands of people line in Boston Harbor just to take a beautiful look at the USS Constitution. Once she gets out into the middle of Boston Harbor, she gets a beautiful 21-gun salute. A little mini battle that she has with herself that she wins, and that keeps her as a commissioned warship, the oldest commissioned warship afloat in the world today. She does have a nickname, that would be Old Ironsides, and she got that nickname during the War of 1812 in a battle that she had off the beautiful coast of Nova Scotia. And these two ships, the HMS Revere and the USS Constitution, back and forth at each other shooting cannonballs. And there's a British sailor, he's on his ship and he's watching the battle, and he can see the Constitution shooting cannonballs in the ship. They're doing substantial damage. They're knocking over masts, big holes in the hull of the ship. And then he sees the cannonballs come flying out of the guns of his ship. They come flying out, they hit the Constitution, and then they bounce off her side. They hit, they bounce, they hit, they bounce. He watches for a while. Finally, he says, huzzah! Look at the cool word for wow. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Look at that. Huzzah, he says. Her sides must be made of iron. But they're not made of iron. They're made of almost 2 feet thick of live Georgian oak. And they're sheathed in copper by that excellent coppersmith who lived in the North End. had 16 kids, and his name was Paul Revere. There you go. All right. Looks like we have a couple more Bunker Hill monuments directly ahead of us, so you guys, I'm sure we're checking this out on our way over here. This is the Lenny Zakum Bunker Hill Bridge. When this was first completed, it was the widest cable stay bridge in the world. It no longer has that distinction. Actually, there's a guy in Australia who really wanted to have the widest cable stay bridge in the world. There's a bridge in Australia that is 1 inch wider than this. And it's wide. And 20 now. It's a beautiful bridge, though, named for Lenny Zakum, who was a human rights activist in Boston during the 1990s. It was said that he could build bridges to meet all kinds of opposing people. The cables or stays there represent the long-time sailing history that we've got here in Boston. Now, Lenny Zakum very sadly died at a very young age. He was only 43 when he died. And, but he had a friend, Bruce Springsteen, was good friends with Lenny Zakum. And Bruce Springsteen, because he was so sad about his friend, not getting a chance to see his bridge open to celebrate the life of Lenny Zakum at a concert by the bridge about a week before the bridge opened. It was designed by Christian men. Not a lot of guys who were Christians, by one guy whose name was Christian men. I think that's true. All right. So, as it comes back over this is the North Washington Bridge extension, because they're completely redoing it, tearing down the old North Washington Bridge and building another one, which is why you see all this construction here. On our left-hand side is Boston Harbor. It is salt water. It has incoming and outgoing tides. On the right-hand side of the trolley, we have the Charles River. Fresh water, no tides. These two bodies of water never would have met had we not manipulated the land that we have in Boston so much. So this is the mouth of the river. And the only way we can keep the river fresh is make sure that your boat has to go through these Ridley locks to get upriver. You bring your boat into the locks, they close the locks around you, they raise or lower the level depending upon the tides, Boston Harbor, and then up the river you go. As you come down a little further on the front left side, we see a white building with blue windows. That has no historic significance whatsoever. But on that site in 1919, there was a rum distillery. In order to make rum, you need a lot of molasses, and right there was a huge vat. And into that were 2,300,000 gallons of molasses. January 15th, 1919 was an unusually warm day. No one shut off the burners underneath the vat. The burners were there to keep the molasses nice and warm. Well, not only was it nice and warm with the burners, it also started to bubble and boil. And then the gas started to expand, and then finally the vat itself began to expand until finally it exploded. And it sent a 50-foot high wave of molasses going 35 miles an hour right into the north end. First thing it did, we used to have an elevated train right here. Talk about timing. La 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 la. Here comes the train. Bam! It gets hit by the molasses. Knocks it off the track onto the ground below. And then the molasses continued to slowly seep into the basement of the home in the north end. It was a very sticky situation. Some people refer to it as the Great Boston Massacre. It was the first time the people of the North End and the people of the West End really stuck together. I would tell you another joke, but that would be exactly. Let's take it right here on the Causeway Street, so called because the Causeway Street was originally a causeway. A tiny, skinny slip of land between what once was Mill Pond right in front of us, and on the other side we had the Charles River. Boston, you'll find out more and more, is all 75% landfill. Pretty much when you're walking around, the north end is original Boston land. Our entire financial district is landfill. Anytime you see a tall building, the Back Bay has all the tallest buildings in New England. The Back Bay used to be a bay, that's why we call it the Back Bay, so that's landfill as well. This street, as I said, Causeway Street is landfill too. So we're going to take the right here. 75%, 1.2 square miles of land was the original Boston. It was originally called Shawmut by the indigenous people. They were the Algonquin tribe. Shawmut in Algonquin means living water. And there were all kinds of freshwater springs. The Algonquin tribe did not live on the peninsula. They lived on the mainland, but they would come here because the fishing was absolutely amazing. 75% landfill. 1.2 square miles of land was the original Boston. It was originally called Shawmut by the indigenous people. They were the Algonquin tribe. Shawmut in Algonquin means living water. And there were all kinds of freshwater springs. The Algonquin tribe did not live on the peninsula. They lived on the mainland, but they would come here because the fishing was absolutely amazing. Soon as we come to our next stop is stop number 4, which is the Boston Garden, home to 17-time world champion Boston Celtics, and the 6th-time Stanley Cup winning Boston Bruins. Stop number 4.
Welcome everyone. Veronica, indeed I am. How did you know?
Hey guys, we're doing well. How are you guys doing?
Welcome everyone. Let me know where you're watching from. We're taking the Boston Trolley tour around the historic center. I think this is about a 2-hour trip. So we're about 20 minutes in.
It's exhausting. Alright. Okay, so they finally moved that thing. We can go straight from here.
In the comments also let me
Okay,
know
so
what's your favorite Boston movie.
Well, the Boston Bruins. Everyone in Boston loves the Boston Bruins, but even if you hate the Boston Bruins, if you're not from Boston, what do you have? So even if you don't like the Bruins, everyone likes Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr played for the Big Bad Bruins in the 1970s, and there's one point in the 1970s on May 10th, they were playing the St. Louis Blues, and it was the finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And when I say finals of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I mean they're in overtime. And if the Bruins score, they win the Stanley Cup. Stanley Cup, the holy grail of hockey. So let's go back. May 10th, 1970, Boston Bruins playing the St. Louis Blues. Bobby Orr, Derek Sanderson are both defensemen. They come barreling down the ice. Bobby Orr's got the puck, he passes to Derek Sanderson. Derek Sanderson's got the puck, he passes it back to Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr sees a spot. He knows he gets the puck right by the goal. He scores the winning goal, wins the Stanley Cup. He lifts up his stick to hit the puck at the exact same time. Noah Paz, the St. Louis Blues, wraps his stick around Bobby Orr's skate. Trips him. Causes him to fly through the air, but he flew through the air like Superman with a hockey stick. As a matter of fact, look to your right. That is a sculpture of exactly what he looked like when he was flying through the air, because he scored the winning goal. The Bruins won the Stanley Cup on Mother's Day, May 10th, 1970. It was an amazing day for hockey. In fact, to show you how excited it was, I'm going to play you the actual announcer.
Orr fights to keep it in, has it in the corner to Sanderson. Back in front to Orr, shots, goal! Bobby Orr! Sanderson! And what could be better than that? As they beat St. Louis 4-3. Orr to Sanderson, back to Orr, and they go wide.
Hey, of course we did. It was 1970. The last time we won the Stanley Cup in Boston was 1942 or 43, whatever. It was a long time ago. So everyone was very excited. It was an amazing day. Bobby was very diplomatic. This diplomatic mom was in the crowd. And I say diplomatically because one of the reporters went up to her and said, Mrs. Orr, and you must be so proud of your son. And she said, which one? I have 3. So, yeah, very diplomatic woman. Alrighty, so this is the West End, or at least it was the West End back in, during World War II. It was still the West End here. When I say the West End, if you picture West Side Story, you can picture what it was like here with the red brick houses and the clotheslines, people leaning out of their windows talking to each other. A very, very tight-knit group of hard-working people. They loved the West End. They said living in the West End was like living just this side of heaven. They were very, very happy. Next to the West End, or part of the West End actually, was Copley Square. Copley Square started out okay with nice, comfortable places called the Tabernacle and the old Howard Pier. But then it started getting a little crazy. And then during World War II, if you were a soldier or a sailor, if you were single, you knew where you were going to go off some World War II. You'll come into Copley Square, do shots at the fan dances, do some dances, kick around, get rid of some old, World War II steam, blow it off right there. It got crazy. The city of Boston lost all control. There was nothing that they could do. Actually, I think there probably was, but they didn't. They didn't try hard enough. They used eminent domain, which means the rights of the city or the rights of the people. And they took Copley Square, but with it, they took the West End. And all of these people that were so happy, they took their apartments and their buildings. So they said, don't worry, we'll have affordable housing. Unfortunately, that never came to fruition. This is kind of a sad part of Boston history. However, we have made sure that's never happened again. One of the families that was displaced was the Nimoy family. You may have heard of their son, Leonard. Leonard Nimoy played a lot of roles. One of the most well-known roles that Leonard Nimoy played was a part of Mrs. Fox on Star Trek. Well, he actually originally grew up here in the West End, and when he was 17 years old, he said to his parents, I love you very much, but I'm leaving. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. I want to be an actor. And he said, I want to be an actor because he was from Boston. He had a Boston accent. First thing he did when he got to LA is he got a vocal coach because he didn't want to be cast as a criminal or, I don't know, Whitey Bulger or something. He wanted to have a good role, so he wanted to get rid of his Boston accent because even Leonard Nimoy said, live wicked, long and prosper. It just doesn't sound the same. However, I am a big fan of old Star Trek. I watch old Star Trek all the time, and now that if you ever watch old Star Trek, listen to Mr. Spock. Because you will hear, you can't take a Boston accent out of the person forever. If you listen to Mr. Spock, you will hear him drop an R a lot more than you realized before. Because even though he's from Vulcan, Mr. Spock is from the Bostonian section of Vulcan. So, there you go. Listen to the or lack thereof. We're going to be coming by the oldest commercial block in America, coming up on our left-hand side. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are in there, but what I want to point out first is a very powerful, very moving memorial called the Holocaust Memorial. Right behind Boston Public Market Kitchen. The 6 glass towers. Each one of those glass towers represents the chimney of the Nazi camp. There are 1 million numbers etched in each, representing the tattoos of those who were killed during the Holocaust. To experience the memorial, you walk through it over grates as steam comes up from the grates, and you read survival stories of the Holocaust survivors. Very powerful, very moving memorial. Behind it, the Blackstone block contains the Bellingham Tavern. That's the oldest tavern in the city of Boston. Next to that tavern, we have the Union Oyster House. That's the oldest continually running restaurant in the entire country. In my opinion, they have the best clam chowder in the entire city. Either side of the Yankee Publishing Building, you see what look like alleyways. Those are not alleyways. Those are cobblestone streets. Those are the exact same streets that Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Paul Revere walked, and you can literally follow in their footsteps. You can follow their footsteps right here. This incredible red brick building on our front left side, that is Faneuil Hall. Considered to be the birthplace of freedom, the cradle of liberty. It is inside those very walls where Samuel Adams spoke with such passion, such conviction, and such inspiration that he inspired the colonists to the revolution. Now, this was revolutionary times, and you wanted to go to one of those meetings with Samuel Adams. You'd go, if you knew where the will was being held, you'd go up, you'd find the door, you'd knock, and then say, what sits on top of Faneuil Hall? You got another secret password. Let's take a look. We have a golden dome up there. On top of the golden dome, we have a weather vane. On top of the weather vane, and the answer to what sits on top of Faneuil Hall? A grasshopper, exactly. You get to go to the meeting. If you said cricket, you're going to be tied and feathered going to Boston. How are they going to think you're a spy? Alright, who's better to have a statue in the birthplace of freedom and the cradle of liberty than the founder of the American Revolution, Samuel Adams himself, boldly standing in front of Faneuil Hall. Quincy Market and the Market Building, 75% of which are open. And then in the Faneuil Hall area, this whole area during normal times is visited by more people than visit Disneyland every single year. Coming up on the front right side, we have the old State House. This was built in 1713. This is originally the seat of British government here in Boston, when Boston was British America. If you look at the top left side, you see a golden lion. That golden lion represents the power of England. On the top right side, you see a silver unicorn. That represents the power of Scotland. And as I said, this was the seat of British government until July 18, 1776, when from that very balcony, the Declaration of Independence was read to Bostonians for the very first time. Some of you are saying, what happened? Why July 18th? What happened on 4th of July? 4th of July, the first one, 1776, the Declaration was read in Philadelphia. There's only one copy of that great document. The facts were offline that day. They had it sent by Pony Express. It got here on the 17th, was read on the 18th. Every single year since then, with a lot of pomp and circumstance, the Declaration is read. During our bicentennial in 1976, while the Declaration was being read, on that balcony stood the President of the United States, President Ford, and the Queen of England. They stood side by side in a show of solidarity. In front of the balcony, there's a circle of cobblestone that marks where the Boston Massacre took place on March 5th, 1770. We are coming up to our next stop, which is stop number 5. It's our best historic stop in this great. I love the way we paint our electrical boxes. This is the artist taking this great picture of the electrical boxes. Because then you can see that one, look how beautiful it is. And then look at this one up here that's still gray. So it's really, you know, art can be everywhere. And it's AHT, art in Boston. AHT, no R. All right, stop number 5, a great historic stop. Always the standard side, always. Alright, so we're going to take off, and I'm going to point something out to you that you may think, oh, well, that's fine. That doesn't go wrong. So we're on State Street right now. It doesn't look like State Street just goes straight up here, right? No, it doesn't. This is State Street. As soon as we cross this street, it's going to be Court Street. You see the sign, State Court. And the reason for that, this is Washington Street. It used to be Orange Street here on the left-hand side. Orange Street. And they said, let's name our street after George Washington. And they did. But they said, let's have a different Washington Street than anywhere else in the country. Our Washington Street, no street will be the same that crosses over the other name. So now, if you're walking down Winter Street and you cross Washington Street, then you're on Summer Street. Every street changes. So this is what looks like a straight street. Should be the same name. Nope. One, two different names. Same street. On the right side, we have a landmark from Boston from the Trolley Square days. That tea kettle. You can see the steam coming out of there. That tea kettle, actually, originally, what was there was the East India Tea Company. So we have that lovely tea kettle on what used to be. Now it's a Starbucks. We like Starbucks here in Boston, but we prefer Dunkin' Donuts because there's no in Dunkin' Donuts. On the right side of the trolley, we have City Hall. Boston City Hall is brutalism. It's the style. Brutalist is the style of the architecture there. I think it's because it's brutally ugly, and I'm not alone. Boston City Hall has been voted the ugliest building in the country 3 times. Yeah, okay. Well, the thing is, on the inside walls are the exact same ugly concrete or whatever the material is on the inside. And it's just not very warm and fuzzy, even when you go inside, which I guess it is City Hall, so it's not supposed to be warm and fuzzy. But anyway, all right, we're going to Boston Massacre. It did take place in front of our old state house, our stop that we just left. It wasn't actually a massacre. It was used as propaganda by Sam Adams, John Hancock, and Paul Revere. Especially Sam, they wanted to get this revolution off the ground, and it was taking too long. The riots actually started happening just after October 2nd, 1768, which is when the British Army first got here and marched up Long Wharf with pipe and drum, but they also had guns and ammunition. They started enforcing martial law and all kinds of charging taxes that no one wanted to pay, that no one thought they should pay, because they didn't have proper representation in Parliament. So when the League Makers Apprentice started arguing, there was a very angry crowd that started yelling and screaming. Then they started throwing snowballs, and that turned into rocks. Then someone started ringing a bell. Well, if you rang a bell in 1770, and it wasn't Sunday, which it wasn't, that meant there was a fire. So people started yelling, fire, fire, fire. There was all kinds of confusion. The British Army shot into the center of the crowd, and they killed 5 people. The first person to be killed was a young black man by the name of Crispus Attucks. He was the first to die in the American Revolution. The British soldiers they were convicted, they were accused of manslaughter. They needed an attorney. They got one. His name was John Adams. Might have heard of that guy. He was second president of the United States. He represented the British soldiers. 2 of the soldiers were convicted of manslaughter. They were each branded with an M on each one of their thumbs and then sent back to England. All right, coming up on the right side of the trolley, we have Massachusetts General Hospital, one of the best hospitals in the country, one of the best hospitals in the world. During modern times, Massachusetts General Hospital was one of the first hospitals to ever do a face transplant. Pretty crazy. In 1846, Oh, we must be in Boston. In 1846, Massachusetts General Hospital was the first hospital to ever use ether in an operation. A dentist here used it, but it became common to use it for operations after that. Because before that, if you needed an operation, what they would do? They would give you a couple of shots of whiskey, something to pipe down on, and then open. A couple of shots of whiskey. That's Sunday brunch. Alrighty, we do unfortunately not open, but I'm sure I've never been in there. The Museum of Medical History and Innovation there on the front right side of us, which is kind of a little more into stuff that I ever want to get into. I'm not going to deal with band-aids or anything like that, but that's absolutely amazing. It is an absolutely amazing. Coming up on our right, there's this beautiful old gray building. It is part of the hotel. The hotel company bought it and actually named themselves because of the building. If you notice this beautiful old gray building, you will notice there are bars on the windows. They left the bars on the windows. This was originally the Charles Street Jail years ago. They called it the Liberty Hotel because it used to be a jail. They think that's cute. They left the bars in the windows because they think that's cute. There's a couple of restaurants in there, the Alibi and the Click, because they think that's cute. And they say staying at the Liberty Hotel is a captivating experience. Alright, we're going to take a ride to Cambridge. We're going to go over this bridge twice. We're going to go this way, we're going to come back the other way. Because look at the view, it's so gorgeous, especially to the left. One of my favorite views in Boston. On the right-hand side, there's the Museum of Science. This is a Longfellow Bridge, but look at these gray obelisks. We think they look like salt and pepper shakers, so this is the salt and pepper shaker bridge. Underneath us is a great body of water from the Charles River. It's such a great body of water that the song was actually used to be Journey. So there's a song that was written about it by the Sandell. This is it. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you about myself. I'm going to tell you a big bad story, baby. All about myself. My life is down by the river. Down by the banks of the river Charles. Oh, that's the kind of feeling. When I know that dirty water. You're mine. Oh, that was kind of cool. Yeah, the mental one place. Alright, that's dirty water. It is acted appropriately. That Charles River water was so filthy. If you were sailing the Charles River, your boat capsized and you went in the water, you immediately had to get out of the water and get a tetanus shot. It was possible. It was funky. It was filthy. It was gross. If a fish was unlucky enough to go upriver, you would see it floating around the river. Well, this bothered that, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the Charles River Watershed Association. They got together with a few other organizations and they worked really hard for the past 15 years, and now the Charles River is the cleanest urban river in the country. Pretty cool. So we're in Cambridge. If you live in Cambridge, you're called a Canterbridgean. And our next stop is going to be stop number 6, is right on the MIT campus, or I guess you can say right next to the MIT campus. MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, is an absolutely amazing school. Enough to get into, even tougher to get out of and graduate from. Your first semester as a freshman at MIT, 4 of your required subjects are calculus, chemistry, biology, and physics. This is MIT directly ahead of us. What they're known for quite a bit, research. They get postdoc researchers from all over the world. They come here and they all concentrate on the same subject. And they come up with all kinds of amazing stuff. Right now, there are 90 different laboratories right in the area that we're in right now that are all doing research with the COVID vaccine. We are coming up to our stop number 6. If you walk right down this street on our right-hand side, you'll get to Massachusetts Avenue, which is where the main entrance is for MIT. This is our stop. Down the street is, down the street, yeah, the street is Faneuil Square. You can hop on the red line and get to Harvard from there. Watch your step, guys. Take your time. Nice and easy. Oh, thank you. You would appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Watch your step. Take care. Watch your step, guys. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very generous. You would get on the subway, the red line subway, take it 2 stops. It takes about 10 minutes to get off at Harvard. You're right, Harvard Square. Yeah, you take the T, our subway, 2 stops to Harvard. Okay, it takes maybe 10 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Right down on the left-hand side. Yeah, it's 2 stops. It would take a real long time. You'd be way too tired. You could, but you're welcome. Take care, ladies. Yep, while you're back here, as long as you're here at 5 o'clock, you are all set. Okay? All right. Okie doke.
Dawn, that's going to be tomorrow. So everyone, tomorrow I'm going to do the Freedom Trail, or part of it at least. Maybe the entire thing, I'm not entirely sure. Definitely a half, at least. Adam, yes. Well, I got stop 7 or 8. 2 hours.
Okay, so Cambridge, I told them about the our subway. As you can tell the subway, you can see the circle with the T. That's our subway. Which is what we called it with the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. That's an awful lot to say. Australians don't like a lot of words, they don't like a lot of syllables. So we shortened it to the MBTA. That's still kind of a lot of letters, so we shortened it again to the MTA. Still kind of a lot. So we shortened it again to the T. Some people think that's still too much. And they want to start calling it the...
Michelle, that's Friday. For Salem.
No,
Salem is on Friday.
Now we can't breathe on each other.
I hope you enjoy this trolley tour.
Alright. I'm going to head back into Boston over the lovely bridge again, which is great because the views are absolutely gorgeous. Here we go. So we'll leave the lovely Cambridge and head over to Boston. Lots of things to see from this side. You see our red line subway going over the bridge. Called the red line because originally all it did was take people to Harvard. Their color is crimson, that's just why we call it the red line. If you look at the front right side of the trolley, you can see that little sloping hill. And that golden dome, that's Beacon Hill. On the right side of the trolley is where we celebrate the 4th of July, right here at the Charles River. You see on the 3rd of July 2 massive barges that we shoot off the fireworks. There'd be about 300 private boats here. What looks like I have a basketball nestled in the trees is actually the backside of the Hatch Memorial Shell. That's where the Boston Pups played on the 4th of July. This grass area with the trees is called the Esplanade. And with that highway, several drives, completely closed to traffic. This is where anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 people gather to celebrate the 4th of July here in Boston. Everyone's very excited because you're listening to the Boston Pops. They have special guests. It's an absolutely amazing time to be here. You know when the 1812 overture starts playing, at the end of that song, there's going to be all kinds of things going on. The cannons will go off, and then all the bells on Beacon Hill will ring, and then finally, fireworks. The experience is a little like this. However, it's still be a thrill to be involved in the 4th of July. We celebrate the birth of a nation, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere. I think everyone should join us here in Boston at least once to the celebration of the 4th of July. All right, so we are coming onto Charles Street. Charles Street is also known as Antique Row. There are 35 antique shops here. On our left-hand side is original land. This is Beacon Hill. We're still on landfill here. We used to have 3 hills. We had Beacon Hill, Mount Vernon, Mount Pemberton. Now all we have is Beacon Hill. We're driving on a lot of Mount Vernon and Mount Pemberton. They took so much land from those 2 hills for landfill in Boston. As I said, it's 75% landfill. They're flat now. Our next stop coming up is stop number 7, and it's, I mean, when you're in Boston, if you don't get out and walk around Beacon Hill, you're missing so much. Beacon Hill is absolutely beautiful. When you walk around there, you can actually feel the history. So our next stop, stop number 7, is if you'd like to walk up Mount Vernon Street. On the left-hand side is Copley Square. That's where it's a beautiful neighborhood. It has not changed since the 1700s. On the right-hand side, if you walk up Mount Vernon Street, then you'll get to Acorn Street. After you take your first right, which is here, then you get to Acorn Street, and that is the most photographed street in the entire country. This is stop number 7.
So this is 7th stop out of 17. Hello everyone, I'm Ariel. You're watching Urbanist. Let me know where you're watching from. We're going all the way through Boston, learning all about its history. The next week, I'm going to go live every day at 1 p.m.
Hi kids. You're very good kids. Yeah, very sweet. Thank you, Dad. Thank you.
Will I be taking the MBTA? I think so, Adam, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cheers is somewhere around here. I think we might pass it. Moss, hello. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Judith. B. Griffin, Brian. Yeah, she's very funny. I agree. Michelle, hello.
All right, so as you pull away from our stop, take a look at this street light right here on the right-hand side. We're not too close to it here, so take a look at that. That street light is actually a gas lantern.
Oh.
It's an authentic gas lantern. Oh! Hi guys, how did I miss you guys? How did I miss you? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to miss you.
She's driving and guiding. Yes,
Welcome
that's
aboard.
correct.
Good thing there was a
Very
red light. I
impressive.
never
Just like
would
me
have heard
walking
that.
and guiding. But she's driving, which is a little bit harder.
Alright, so we have this gas lantern here on the right-hand side. It is an authentic gas lantern. Now that I've pointed that gas lantern out to you, look around. They're all over the place. All over. There's so many gas lanterns in Boston. We used to have lamplighers that would fire these things up at night, shut down in the morning. They had roofs, like letter carriers have roofs and stuff, and it was great. Well, it was great until the city thought about it. Being a very frugal city, Boston said, how much are we paying the lamplighter? And they realized that they were paying the lamplighter was more expensive than if they just went to gas farms. So these gas lanterns, and as I said, they're all around the city of Boston. They've been on and running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year since 1912. I like to say we always keep the light on for you here in the city of Boston. Front left side of us, we have Boston Common. That is the first public park in America. It was established in 1634. Front right side of the trolley, we have Boston Public Garden, the first horticultural garden in the country, not established until 1837. The reason for so many years, what we're sitting on right now is the beach. As far behind us and ahead of us as you can go, and it sloped into what was a massive bay that we call the Back Bay. Next stop is going to be number 8. We can live in the world today, takes everything we got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name. Always glad you came. You wanna be where you can be. Troubles are all the same. Be where everybody knows your name. Alrighty, so that is the Bull and Fish Pub. Bye guys. The Bull and Fish Pub, that is what the name of this place was before it was Cheers. And when the guys that were producing Cheers were looking all over the place for a Boston bar, one that had sports, one that had politics, and they found it in the Bull and Fish. Cliff was the actual mailman, you know, they had Sam was the bartender, Cliff was the waitress, and Tara was the waitress. These are real people. They did change the names. In this case, it was to protect the guilty, definitely not the innocent. It was a wild and crazy place. And they liked the character. So they went to LA and they made it on a soundstage. So it doesn't look like the TV show, but it's got a nice feeling. They don't know your name when you walk in the door. You're not a regular. You know, if you're a regular in a bar, they know your name. Plus, they have the ESPN, but they don't have the ESP. So they don't know your name when you walk in the door. But it's a great place to go. So here we are, and we're in the Back Bay. And they call it the Back Bay because it used to be a bay. While I'm telling you the story about how they filled this whole massive thing in, look at the brownstones that you see here. They started building these in 1857. They built them every 2 blocks after filling in the land. So they started in 1857, by the time we get to the end of the block, we're into the 19 teens. So this is water. This is the bay. It was about 18 feet of water at high tide. At low tide, it was mud flats. If you ever lived near mud flats, they stink to high heaven at low tide. And these are no different. In the 1700s, people weren't environmentally aware, and they were throwing their trash in the Back Bay. They continued to throw their trash in the Back Bay, thinking that the high tide would just suck it all away. Decades after they started throwing their trash in, they took a look in the Back Bay, and whoa, it was filled with garbage, mosquitoes, flies, and rats. And they said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? The only thing they could do, they filled it in. Before they could fill it in, they had to block off the incoming and outgoing tide. What we are driving on is a major street called Beacon Street. But underneath us are remnants of Mill Dam. Mill Dam was completed in about 1816, and it blocked off the incoming and outgoing tide. Once this was completed, it started way behind us at the Boston Common, goes all the way up to the Faneuil Hall in Faneuil Square. This is completed, and then they set up a railroad system to get landfill in Needham, Massachusetts. They had already used up all the landfill they could here in Boston. So they had to go to Needham, Massachusetts, 45 minutes west of where we are now. They set up a train system, and every 45 minutes, massive spring-loaded train cars would come here by railroad, dump the landfill, and then steam shovels would spread it all over the place. 57. They did it non-stop. Every 45 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They didn't stop for nighttime. They didn't stop for holidays. They didn't stop for 50 years. They added over 800 acres of land to the tiny town of Boston. The brownstones that you see here were built, as I said, 2 blocks behind the landfill. And when these were first built, these were all single-family homes. Some of them remain single-family homes, but the great majority of them are now condominiums. They're protected by the Federal Protection Act, so that if you want to refurbish the outside of your brownstone, you can't. You can't change it. On the right-hand side, you see what happens if we let the changes take place. This is a pretty expensive neighborhood. Developers are tearing down brownstones left and right to put up high-rises to make as much money as possible. So now all you can do is refurbish. The city has to approve the refurbishing, and if you want to paint something a color, say a door, a rounded door, a fence, a bay window, any color of paint that you paint has to be a color that would have been available at the time when the brownstone was first built. Now this street, Beacon, is the most city of the streets, most used, and a lot of these, as we come up to the end of the cutoff at Mass Ave, a lot of these are students at BU, Boston University is ahead of us. So this isn't the most expensive, the most elaborate, the most beautiful. Marlborough Street, we're paralleling Commonwealth Avenue is paralleling that. Those streets, the architectural styles that you're looking at are absolutely gorgeous. We can't even drive up and down those streets because people don't want, they pay a lot of money. They don't want a trolley drive about them. Technical minimum time per day. A condo, a two-bedroom condo on Marlborough Commonwealth Avenue is going to run you anywhere from $2 to $5 million. The single-family brownstones, and some do remain, the single families rarely go on the market. Usually they're purchased by someone who just got their nose, their ear to the ground to know when one of them is well going to be coming up for sale. But the last one that sold in the corner of the street, Marlborough and Clarendon Streets, it sold for $13 million. The $13 million, I would like some land and a couple of Arabian horses. Alright, let's go up a little further. This is Commonwealth Avenue. In the center of Commonwealth Avenue is a lovely little park. It's called the Commonwealth Mall. It's a park in a series of parks designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. Olmsted designed the series to go around the city of Boston. If you look at Boston from the air, it looks like an emerald necklace going around the city. It goes out to the Brookline area, and our train system, the trolley system as well, that goes around and goes out there. It's called Green Line because it follows the green part of Boston. The emerald necklace, along with the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway, makes Boston the most park and tree-lined metropolitan city in the country. If you take a look on your right, as I slowly go by here and don't blink, you will see the lights of Faneuil Hall. And it's like Boston Red Sox over there. Faneuil is about maybe a 10-12-minute walk from our next stop number 9. You walk right up Molasses Street here. That'll take you right to Faneuil. 10-12-minute walk. These pro shop for the Red Sox is open every day. It's open Monday through Friday from 10 to 6. Saturdays and Sundays it's open from 10 to 5. We are currently in the musical area of Boston. Oh, there's a lot of smoking section of Boston too. Anyway, musical. We have 3 different schools here. We have Boston Conservatory of Music, which gets you all ready for Broadway. We have New England Conservatory, which goes more towards symphony. And then we have Berkeley on our front left side. Berkeley College of Music was founded by Maureen. He named it for his son, Revere. Revere was a very talented, classically trained musician. And he shared it with some of his friends. Maureen would jam with them, and he was surprised at how many of them couldn't read or write music. And when he asked them why, they said, we don't like classical. And at that time, that was the only way to learn how to read or write music. So he founded Berkeley. And if you like rap, heavy metal, country, western, rhythm and blues, jazz, whatever music you like, that is the music that you learn to read, write, and play at Berkeley. And I'm sure you guys have heard of some of our graduates. We have John Mayer, Bradford Marsalis, Bruce Hornsby, Melissa Etheridge, Steve Vine, Katie Lang not only attended Berkeley, she also taught there for a while. Coming up on the front left side, we have the oldest and the busiest fire station in Boston. Such an old fire station. Originally, horses brought the fire apparatus to the fire. Now we have a regular engine and ladder, but a regular modern engine and ladder will not fit in the archway. You can't touch the archways because they're protected by the Federal Protection Act. So what do? Well, we get a regular engine and a regular ladder, and we strip them of all their fire apparatus. Then we have a specially designed fire apparatus that fits only on ladder 15, only on engine 33, allowing only those 2 vehicles to very carefully back into those archways. That way we continue to fight fires with modern firefighting equipment, and we can keep the beauty of the architectural style. The building that used to be the barn is now Boston Architectural College. Front right side of the chart, we have the Prudential building, which is the second tallest building in New England, built between 1960 and 1964. The architect who designed it wanted it to look like a computer chip.
Oh, wow.
I think it looks
That's
like a cheese grater. We are coming up to our stop number 9. from here, you will get to Faneuil Hall, get to Boylston Street, to the restaurants or whatever they like there, and Newbury Street also parallels that too. This is our stop, number 9. Hi guys, did you miss me? Thanks, welcome back.
So yeah, it was a 4-hour trip to get from New York City to Boston. I just arrived like about an hour, a little bit more than an hour ago, an hour and a half ago. I just immediately went to this bus. I highly encourage anyone just to take any bus tour that has like outdoors and shows you the sights anytime you visit a new city. It's a great way to get to know the city. I haven't been here in about 15 years, and it's nice to finally see it all at once, so I can give you awesome tours these next few days. So yeah, highly recommend always doing that. And I did take the Acela, yeah. I'm not talking too much because there's the tour guide, and I should have worn a Yankees hat. I think that's a big no-no. I think Boston takes its sports very seriously.
I love sports, but not really. Alright, so ahead of us, we went to the Prudential Center, and that is the second tallest building in New England. This is actually the third tallest building in New England, directly ahead of us. This is the Four Seasons Hotel and private residences, and it's still being completed. They just finished
17 in total.
Final touches to the
17
building,
stops.
and 50 stories. So third tallest. It was great. To our right is the world headquarters of the Christian Science Religion, founded by Mary Baker Eddy. They are doing some finishing touches on the fountain there, but behind it is a beautiful reflecting pool where you can just sit and reflect. The Mary Baker Eddy Library and the Baptarium are not open, and they have not said when they're going to be open, so they're all closed. Our Museum of Fine Arts just reopened on the 26th. However, there are so many people that wanted to visit. You have to go online, and it can take, I think, 2 or 3 days before you can get an appointment with them. There's another museum, the Isabella Gardner Museum, which I highly recommend. It's her house. She's very wealthy woman, traveled the world collecting artwork, wallpapered her house with the artwork. An amazing woman. She actually hired these guys. She had a beautiful indoor courtyard, outdoor courtyard inside her house. And she hired these very, very specific stoneworkers to do the specific work that she wanted done. And she paid them very, very well to do so. And she came into the area where they were working, and they were all on the scaffolding, and she said, no, everyone get down. And she got up on the scaffolding and showed these guys that she was paying a ton of money for their brilliant artistic work, how to do what she wanted done the right way. Which is a woman after my own heart, but I'm sure those guys weren't very happy with her. But about 35 years ago, there was an art fest there, and they just sliced the artwork out of the frames. The Isabella Gardner Museum never replaced it, never changed a thing. And now if you go to the museum, there's an entire wing part of the museum that just deals with the art of the feeling that you get when you look at the art that's not there anymore. It's pretty cool. So this stop would be for those that you should hop on the Green Line subway. You would take you to the museum stop, and both museums are right at the museum stop on the Green Line. This is our stop number 10, just for that stop. This is also for our mall. We've got a great mall here. The shop across the street from us, Barnes & Noble. This is all the shops at the thru. There's about 100 shops and stores there. There's an eatery there, great restaurant where they grow their own fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff. You can buy that to grow it, or you can buy something that they make with it. They have a regular chain store like the Cheesecake Factory. I just got key lime cheesecake last week. I think it went 32 days. It's very good. So good. Alright. So the next stop coming up is going to be stop number 11. And this is the whole mall. We have shops at the thru on our left-hand side. We have these glass walkways that bring everything together. And this is the Copley Place part. Copley Place is one half of the mall. Shops at the thru is the other half of the mall. And this is our stop number 11.
Jackie, I think it's a great idea to talk about the Mets. Thank you for reminding me of that game. No, I hope no Bostonians are around. The Sounds of the City says, scaffolding makes New Yorkers feel at home. I I do feel at home with the scaffolding. Though being here reminds me a whole lot of being in London.
So, our next stop is going to be stop number 12, and it's going to be in Copley Square. Now, Copley Square is a really big deal. And the reason it's a really big deal is because of the excitement that they had when they added over 800 acres of land by filling in the Back Bay. I mean, when you see our older churches and meeting houses, the Old North Church is gorgeous. The Old South Meeting House is beautiful, but they're small. They only had 1.2 square miles of land on which to build things. So they're really very small. Well, then when they fill in the Back Bay and they add over 800 acres of land, they think, wow, we could really expand. We can build these beautiful, massive churches. We can have these architects that will really be challenged by all the space that they can take up in their architecture. So we've got two gorgeous churches coming up in Copley Square. We have an incredible library. Boston Public Library is the first free lending library in the entire country. It was started by the Boston Brahmins. And the Boston Brahmins were a very wealthy group of people. They lived on Beacon Hill. They were old money. But they were nice, and they thought, you know what, it's really sad that the average person can't afford a Harvard education. So they got all the books that one would need to read for a Harvard education, and they put them in this building on our front left side, which they designed beautifully. The architecture is gorgeous. It's called the People's Museum. During normal times, you go in there are huge sculpted lions, beautiful marble staircases, portraits, paintings, a lovely outdoor courtyard inside again. They serve a nice high tea there, and they also have adult tea beverages for people. On the other side of it, we have the new Old South Church. This is a massive version of the original Old South Meeting House. On the right of us, we have the Trinity Church. This is supported by 4,502 wood pilings. Most of the wood pilings support the 12 million pound steeple. Henry Hobson Richardson is the architect. The architectural style is Richardson-Urbanist. He's the only American architect that his name is part of an architectural style. Halfway up this block on the left-hand side is the finish line for the Boston Marathon. Painted year-round, so it's just up there. And that's where the marathon, 26.2 miles, starts in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, ends there after 26.2 miles of running. More of the Trinity Church here on the right. This is just so incredible. But I love the stairway here and the columns that they have here. Absolutely incredible. This is our stop number 12 for Copley Square, as well as for Newbury Street, which is paralleling us, and Molasses Street, which is the street that we're on. Alright, let's see. They still got stuff go this way. Alright, so we're going to see a couple more on our way to 13. And he almost got hit in the car. That's only the 75th time that's happened on this street today. Oh, Boston drivers are horrible. Boston drivers, they don't signal because you never want the enemy to know your plan. Red lights are only a suggestion, all that good stuff. It's amazing. Boston drivers are horrible. But they've been horrible for a long, long time. Oh, so Copley Square, where we are right now, was named for an artist, John Singleton Copley. Who has a statue there. I'll tell you a little bit about him, but I want to point out a couple more of the buildings. You've got an Art Deco building that reflects in the tall glass building. The tall glass building it used to be the John Hancock Tower, but there's no longer a John Hancock company in there, so now it's just the Clarendon Street Tower. This tall glass building, 62 stories, 10,344 panes of glass, designed in part by IMK, who was asked design a building in modern Copley Square, and he said, he looked around at the churches, the library, and John Hancock, which you can see reflecting, and he said, I can't design a building that's going to add to the beauty of Copley Square, so he designed a glass building to reflect the beauty, to add to the beauty. And it does reflect this, what? You're going to ask a question? No? No. So, this building, if you look at the building in there, it's reflecting. Look at the top. See this window up there with the, it's hard to see the windows. I can tell, just because I know. That's how we tell our weather. If it's solid blue, the sky is blue. If it's flashing blue, which it is right now, I think. You see up there. If it's flashing blue, it changes to. Solid red means rain ahead. Flashing red means snow instead. Unless it's August, you look up there and you see the flashing red, it doesn't mean we're going to have a free snowstorm. It means the Red Sox game is going to go right there. And the most beautiful view in all of Boston, right there, that's us. Reflected right in the building itself. So yeah, doesn't get any better than that. That's my favorite view in the city. So if you notice, the building itself also was built off the curb. And we got a little extra wind there, but the building was built off the curb to allow the sun to rise through it and onto the stained glass windows of the Trinity Church. But it caused a severe wind tunnel, so the windiest part of Boston. Now we're going to be taking a left here onto Columbus Ave here. And I've been talking a lot about Boston being tiny, 1.2 square miles, now 48.4 square miles. When I take a left, if you look, you can see this is the light stone there. It says 75 Clarendon, 1990. Beneath that, there's that box. And inside that box is Boston. It's Boston proper, original Boston. Real original Boston, the actual peninsula, is outlined in a thick gold line. So when I take a left, if you look at that, you'll be able to see where all the Back Bay is, all of the waterfront, all of the financial districts. That's all, everything's waterfront. When you go on the trolley, it's stop number 1. If that's where you get on the trolley, that's all completely sandstone. They've just been filling in the land. It was very, very tiny, the 1.2 square miles, and they've been filling it in and filling it in since 1634 when they first established Boston Common and the rest. So you can see how, and you can see the skinny, when the two fat lines get together, that's the skinny neck. That was the only way that connected Boston to the mainland. So it's a lot bigger now. Originally, if you think of the peninsula Charlotte, Charlotte was named after by the Algonquin tribe, who were the indigenous people here. And Charlotte means living water. They never lived here. They lived on the mainland, but they used to come here to fish. So there's all the water here, the fishing was fantastic, and then take it back to their places. The guy that was the first European settler here in what is now Boston was William Blackston. He came in the 1620s, and he came from England. He was a reverend in England. But he somehow, something left him out, and he decided he didn't like people anymore. He wanted to get away from people. So he came here. He brought with him a library of 1,000 books. And he talked to the Algonquin tribe in the 1620s, and he said, could I stay here? He was talking about, could I stay with Boston Common? He said, could I stay here? And they said, sure, we don't live there, we just come there and fish. So we'll fish, you can live there, feel free. And he said it was great. He was watching the lifestyles of the Algonquin tribe and the way that they dressed and the way that they acted. He was very impressed with them. He couldn't afford a horse, so he said he got a pet white bull for lack of a horse. And then eventually he started riding around, especially in the nice weather. He'd ride around on his pet white bull, all dressed up in his birthday suit. He kind of became known as the guy on the white bull, and everyone was fine getting along with them. And then in the early 1630s, late 1620s, the Puritans came here, and they settled in Charlestown. The water in Charlestown back then was very brackish, very salty. So they kept the Blackston things. He should have some water. And he realized that, he'd been here for a while. Paradise was going to be gone. A lot of people have continued coming. So he left what was Boston Common, and he went to what's now Providence, Rhode Island. He was there for a while. But he sold Boston Common to the Puritans, the equivalent of what today would be about $150. They taxed each family here 8 shillings, and they kept it as a common area for everybody. William Blackston came back to Boston 3 years after that on his pet white bull, this time all dressed up in his Sunday going meeting clothes, and proposed to his then girlfriend, who said yes. I'm not sure what happened after that, but they were happy right then. So our next stop, number 13, is coming up. This is a couple of drives from Boston Common. Normally it would be for our theater district, but like Broadway, our theater is done. It is for Chinatown, which is directly on the other side of this massive red brick building, which is the transportation building. On the other side of that is Chinatown. Our Chinatown begins with the Gekiya, which is a Japanese sushi restaurant. Why our Chinatown begins with the Japanese sushi restaurant is beyond me, but it just does. There are other restaurants, there are craft beer restaurants, all on the first floor of the transportation building. There's a PM Chang's here. And as I said, it's also for the Boston Common and Public Art, which as I take the left, you will see on both sides. So we are coming up to our stop, December 13th, we have things right there. We'll play. That's pretty stuff. That's over that one, alright. Stop 13. Hi there. Come on aboard. Very welcome. Okay. So what we're sitting here, we've got a statue on our front right side. That's Edgar Allan Poe leaving Boston very angrily because no one liked his writing. He loved Boston. He loved all the writers and stuff here. They didn't like his writing. He had to get written The Raven, The Telltale Heart and stuff, but he was born about a block away from here. Ended up living in Virginia for quite a long time, Baltimore, and then he came here. People didn't like him. They didn't like his writing. He said, I'm out of here. And that shows him leaving Boston for the very, very last time. Very angry. Let's say that really Allan Poe. That's exactly what it looked like. That's his skill. Yeah. Cool. Alright. So on the left side, Boston Public Art, the first horticultural garden in the country. 1837 is when that was established. Very pretty over there. That's our swan boats run in the summertime. On the right side, Boston Common. Boston Common 1634. That's when that was established. 1837 for the public garden. And that's because this is a beach. This is the beach that would slope into the massive Back Bay. The Back Bay was massive. It was considered, you hear one it by land, two it by sea? That was the sea. We called it the sea. On this next corner, coming up on the front right side, is where the British Army were congregating. You probably here saw them. Yeah, they're right up there on that corner. And he saw them there. They had rowboats, longboats, as they call them, rowboats. They got into their rowboats. Feels like it should be right here. I always feel like we're in a boat right there. Maybe anywhere around here they got in their longboats, and with their oars they rowed over the sea to Leechmere Point, Cambridge, where they got out of their boats and started their march up Lexington and Concord. So one if by land, two if by sea, the British Army was here, and this entire filled-in land was the sea, which absolutely amazes me. They do have a book called Back Bay that you can get in the bookstore or go to the library and get, and it has pictures and it will tell you all about the landfill that is the Back Bay. The pictures are even more drawings. They have one where the Back Bay is half filled in and there's brown on it. The rest, yeah, it's pretty cool about how much work they did. They have to fill this whole thing in. So we're going to take a right. We're going to go up Beacon Hill. We're going to be on original Boston land for the first time since, let me see, we're not originally in Cambridge. We haven't been on since 6. 5 is not original land. Well, kind of 4 maybe. Definitely stop number 2. There's only about 5 stops out of the 15 that are on original land. This is original land. The beautiful federal style homes on our left-hand side. Beacon Hill, we always think politics at the very top is where our new State House is. We call it the new State House even though it was completed in 1798 because our old State House was completed in 1713. But our old State House was originally the seat of British government when Boston was British America. Sam Adams, John Hancock, and Paul Revere wanted a State House steeped in American history. John Hancock owned the entire top of Beacon Hill. He said, you know what, I'll give up my cow pasture, which is what he did. They flattened it out. They got Charles Bullfinch to design the building. The founding stone of our new State House coming up on the left-hand side was very ceremoniously carried up this very hill by 15 white horses, one horse for each State of the Union. When the founding stone made it to the top of the hill, it was laid by our then Governor, Samuel Adams, and also by Paul Revere. So we're getting up to our stop. On the right-hand side, stop number 14 is from Boston Common. If you just want to take a walk on the beautiful Beacon Hill and touch the history, which you can pretty much do. Stop number 14. If you look on the left, you can see the beautiful red brick of the original 1798 Bullfinch design, but then there's wings on either side. Those were added in 1819. When they added the wings, they tore down John Hancock's home. To do so, which really angers me. There was a protest, apparently that wasn't enough. There weren't protests. This walkway is the original walkway to John Hancock's home. And if you look up, it would have been right behind the cannon that's up there. And I think that there's no way that they had to take it down. Unfortunately, not enough protests. I wasn't alive yet, and I've been here. Going in there right now. We have a wide staircase right here on the left-hand side of Jack Kennedy statue, JFK, at the top of that wide stairway. And he would have looked when he worked here in the State House. And then if you look at the left-hand side right there, it's such a beautiful design. It's so gorgeous. And we have the lovely Golden Dome. That Golden Dome, as you can see, was originally made of wooden shingles. But when it was made of wooden shingles, you see the outline up there. But it just a leak when it would rain. And it would leak on the brilliant political minds that were inside there. We could have none of that. So they had Chief and Conqueror by Revere. Shortly after that, it was gold leaf. It's been gold leaf ever since, except during World War II, when they painted it gray so you couldn't see it from the air. Now this is Beacon Street. This is a major street in Boston. A lot of people don't realize that these streets that look like just old little, quaint little streets aren't main places, but this is a main thoroughfare, a main way. On the right-hand side, we have Emmett's. I'm so excited to have them open. If you want a typical Irish pub in Boston experience, that's where you want to go. They've got great food. It's just nice Irish pub experience, as you can see. Front right side of us, we have the Omni Parker House Hotel. This is the oldest continually running hotel in the country. This is where Boston cream pie was invented.
Yes.
It's also where they have Parker House Roll.
Boston cream pie.
And it's also haunted by Harvey Parker. You take the ghost tours at night. You want to find out how he haunts it. So on the left-hand side, we have a nice statue, and that's the statue of Benjamin Franklin. And it's on the site of the very first school in America. That was Boston Latin School. Boys Latin. Boys Latin, they taught the boys how to do whatever they did. Girls Latin, they taught the girls how to cook and clean and stuff like that. But they've come to their senses now. And we had just Boston Latin School, and it teaches everyone the same thing. Latin, how to read, write, and speak Latin. Now remember the new Old South Church, that beautiful huge church that we just saw in Copley Square? This is the original. This is the Old South Meeting House. Meetings have been taking place there for almost 300 years. The most important meeting to take place there took place on December 16th, 1773. And the reason for that meeting was because in November of 1773, 3 ships came into Boston Harbor. They were the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Great Beaver. When the ships came into the harbor, they were loaded down with tea. And as soon as that tea was taken off of those ships and put on the shores of Boston, a tax would be charged to the colonists. Taxation without representation is tyranny for the words of James Otis. He was the voice of the American Revolution in Boston. And his sentiment was carried over by Samuel Adams. Samuel Adams was the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at the time. And he wrote a letter to King George. And in the letter he said, the colonists in the colonies do not have representation of colonists. And since taxation without representation is against the law, there's absolutely no reason why the colonists should pay taxes on that tea or anything else for that matter. King George wrote that. He said, the colonists in the colonies are sons and daughters of England. And as such, they certainly do have representation in Parliament. And yes, they're expected to pay taxes on that tea and anything else that I see fit. Well, I'm happy with that answer. So he decided to take matters into his own hands. He called a meeting at the Old South Meeting House, the one that we just had. He called a meeting initially in the morning of December 16, 1773. And that meeting was with the Sons of Liberty. They were that secret group of revolutionaries who would do anything for the cause, especially for Samuel Adams. And he said to them, I want you to get as many people as you can to this meeting house tonight. We're going to show the Crown that we mean business. That tea will never come upon the shores of Boston. Sons of Liberty got 7,000 colonists, that little tiny place we just went by, your little tiny meeting house. 7,000 people. This was 1773 Boston. The population, about 15,000 people. So 7,000, not only was it a lot of people, it was also way too much for the meeting house. So very few, not all of them could get in to say anything. Everyone, a lot of people were outside, they were peering through the windows, had their noses pressed against the window panes. When Samuel Adams got there, he couldn't even get up to the pulpit. They had a body servant up to the pulpit. Then it surprised me, like one of them started that in Seattle in like the 1990s or something. But anyway, he got up to the pulpit, he started speaking. When Samuel Adams spoke, people were hanging on his every word. And when he said things that made people happy and excited, that touched their fists in the air and they'd say, "Huzzah!" When he was saying things that made people angry, they put their thumb on their nose, wiggle their fingers and say, "Fine." "Huzzah," they would say, "Fine." Back and forth they went until finally, when Samuel Adams thought it was the most passionate part of his speech, and he said,
"There is nothing more a meeting can do to save this country."
Fortunately, Old Town Trolley was there with the voice reporter, or he never would have known exactly what he said. Thank you again. When he said those words, that was a signal. The Sons of Liberty, get up, get going, get these people out of here. They stood up at the Old South Meeting House that we just passed. They said, "Boston Harbor, a teapot tonight." They were followed by all 7,000 colonists chanting, "Throw the tea into the sea." They got right here to Griffin's Wharf, which was exactly where that red brick building with the green windows to our left is. They threw 342 crates of tea into this inner harbor, turning this entire inner harbor brown for 3 days from the tea. And if you would like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to reenact that experience, this is our Tea Party Ship Museum on the front left side. We have two replicas, exact replicas of the ship. Closest to us is the Brig Beaver, on the other side is the Brig Eleanor. These are exact replications of a typical merchant ship that on a regular basis would go over the North Atlantic between England and Boston. I can't imagine being in a storm in Boston Harbor or one of those things. I mean, they're little tiny boats as far as the ocean's concerned, even in Boston Harbor, never mind the North Atlantic. They also have the gift shop there, Thursday through Sunday, as well as that little restaurant that they have. The stop coming up is also going to, for the children's museum too. I always call it a little restaurant Amelia's, and it's not Amelia's at all. It's something completely, it was John Adams' wife. Abigail, yeah, it's Abigail, thank you. I have, for some reason, it's just, I keep on, maybe, I don't know, maybe I knew John Adams was, Abigail, maybe it's Amelia's. I think Amelia's is a restaurant in Bay that has something to do with Pittsburgh. Alright, so this starts off the 15th for the Tea Party Ship Museum, for the Fort Point Channel, for the Children's Museum, for the Seaport. If you're doing anything in the Seaport, you walk right down Seaport Street, you get right to it. Alright. Okay, so this is South Boston. You look at a lot of these red brick buildings, a lot of these are the factories where the hard-working immigrants who came here to Boston would work in the late early 1900s. People from all over the world, Irish, Italian, and a lot. My father came over here from Sicily, and they first were going to live in the North End, like a lot of people, but the North End is small. So they ended up here in Southie. My mother's family came from Ireland. They already were here. My mom was born in Southie. South Boston, she's called Southie for short. Back then, when everyone was working at the factories and Gillette or whatever they were doing, a lot of people were also working here. This is a fish pier. There wasn't doing anything like this. Even the streets are all wooden streets. There was a lot of fishermen here, riggers, longshoremen, doing a lot of great seafood work. They tried to the entire eastern seaboard. The entire eastern seaboard of the United States. They took care of all the fishing for them. For whatever reason, in the 1970s, they moved them up to Gloucester, 45 minutes north of Boston. When they left kind of a big hole here. We did have a lot of great restaurants, great seafood restaurants. We still have a lot of fresh fish that we can get here from the harbor. But a lot of them ran into the parking lots. because this is considered Southeast by Bostonians, South Boston. So this is like $10 for parking, and then they take wherever you want. If you wanted to park in Boston, it would be $20. So just to think, we thought that this was Southeast, this was not city. When they did the 10 Williams Tower, which was a tower built at a naval base and then brought up here in pieces and sunk exactly into place, it was an amazing feat of engineering. So engineers came from all over the world in the 1990s and were doing the big dig, and they wanted to see all the amazing things that were going on. And developers were with them, and they looked around and they saw this old falling apart fish pier with parking lots, and they said, let's develop. And boy, did they develop. You look at the right, all the buildings you see on our right-hand side, and as I take this left, every single building you see on both our left and right-hand side, up to the third set of lights up there, everything that you see here was not here 5 years ago. 5 years ago, yeah. It's all brand new, all different versions of the same, of glass buildings, which I'm taking, I take a course in modern architecture, so I can learn how to...
This seems like fun.
That's just like, what happened here? This is a great fish pier. There was a lot of, like, really New England kind of things, and a lot of wood, a lot of ropes, a lot of places, and small ropes, and dogs and stuff. It's kind of stuff the far end behind us, because there's a lot of restaurants there that are right on the harbor. They're big, good views. The harbor side, the legal harbor side is nice. These little things are going on. I still haven't found out what these little things are. I realize, I think that's an egg that's frying on the ground. It's very cute. You know, and a hot dog, you know. I don't know if it's an extension of the Children's Museum. It looks like SpongeBob pizza over there instead of square pants and a rainbow. So, interesting stuff. I'll find out eventually. It's only been here for a few days. So, I thought this gold thing on the restaurant, I thought that was a lobster for the longest time. Because we have lobster in Boston. You know we don't have in Boston? Scorpions, yeah, we don't have scorpions. That's exactly, I'm like, wait. Okay, because it's a scorpion bar, I understand that. But they could have had a little scorpion and then a big lobster, because we have a lot of lobster. But I guess you can have a scorpion if you have a fried egg on the sidewalk and a hot dog and all that good stuff. But it's growing on me. I'll say that the Seaport is finally kind of starting to grow on me. When we get up a little further, you're going to see a little teeny tiny bit of what's left over of the Seaport and the way it used to look before they modernized it. I mean, I guess we should have a modern side of Boston. I'm trying to adapt. This is what the whole place used to look like. Great little restaurants like the Bark and Crab. Look at all the wood we have for the floats and the docks. I really like this bridge. I think it's rustic. My friends tell me it's a rusty old bridge, and I should get over my fear of change and all that good stuff. And then look, we have a gold lobster right there at James Hook Lobster. Yeah, that's a lobster. That's definitely not a scorpion. Yeah, no doubt in my mind. James Hook has the best lobster rolls in the city. And when I say they have great lobster rolls, it's because you get tons and tons of lobster. Big chunks of lobster. They're really, really good. Yeah. You get a lot for your money. I got mine. I didn't ask for it. It was only butter, just purist, only like lobster meat, just lightly dipped in butter, and then on a hot dog bun, the top loading hot dog bun. That's the traditional lobster roll. The one that I got there was on a really nice piece of fish, which I liked. A little bit of mayonnaise, which I also liked. And the lobster was just, it was so good. So good. So yeah, and they sell other stuff other than lobster rolls, but they're good. They overnight live lobster anywhere in the country, which is nice, yeah. You know, someone that would like to open their door one morning and see a couple of live lobsters, that'd be nice. Or if you'd like to scare the heck out of somebody, because they're a little scary when they're alive with this long, you know. Alright, so in front of us here, we just drove through when I was talking about the Tea Party story. This is Boston's financial district. Finance is our #1 industry. Our financial district is second in size, only to Wall Street in New York City. So finance, our #1 industry. Our second largest industry is health and hospitals. Our third largest industry is education. And our fourth largest industry, well, it used to be tourism. It isn't right now, but there's a big reason for that. And it will be again very, very soon. I'm not worried about it. Same with Glasgow. Not worried at all. I'm over the thing that walks back, and on the back really intensely. So, okay, so we have Heavy Byway, used to be an elevated highway here. The elevated highway took up this entire space, and there's no light to get through it. So there were no trees, there was no grass, there was nothing that needed time to grow. They tore the elevated highway down, they dug a series of tunnels underneath us, and then they had all this space. They decided to make this the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Greenway. It runs the length of what used to be our central artery. Everything you see here was just put here, or placed here, in 2008, which was the completion of the big dig. On our right, we have the New England Aquarium. You'll see the whale right there on the right where you would go for the harbor cruises. Directly ahead of us is the beginning where the gray building is. That's where the north end is. Across the street, we have Faneuil Hall Quincy Market. This is our stop number 1. If you're going to continue on your tour, you're going to be hopping on the trolley 408 right ahead of us. This is the last stop for this trolley. Thank you guys very much for watching. Step. Nice to see you guys again. Take care. Nice to see you again. Thanks, guys. Take care. People who laugh at my joke. Thanks. Take care, guys. You're welcome. Watch yourself. Take your time, guys. Watch yourself. You're welcome. Nice and easy. Watch yourself. Thank you. Very, very good. Appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Take your time. Nice and easy.
We didn't listen to all of it. We just got on.
Amazing tour.
Oh, thank you.
May I
It's Maureen.
Maureen.
Maureen. I'm the only Maureen in the company.
Oh.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thanks, guys.
All right. So, let me take that was Maureen. She said that she's the only woman who runs the company, and I say 2 hours because it might be long. And let me take a thumbnail shot. There we go. On YouTube, I need to have good thumbnails. She was amazing. She says that she's the only woman in the company. They say 2 hours quicker because there's no traffic. Also,
You want to be left alone while you're just...
sorry about that, everyone, for the audio. I had it on max setting so you can hear the tour. I'll repeat what I said. The tour guide was Maureen. You can give her tips. I gave her a nice tip, and she said she's the only woman in the company, which is cool. So if you see the only woman on Old Town Trolley tours, take it with Maureen. I have said before, if you saw my night bus tour video on New York City, I typically don't like bus tour guides. I have found most of them to be very, very boring. But Maureen is a massive exception. I was absolutely blown away. So when you get a good bus tour guide, it is a rare thing from my own experience. And that was highly enjoyable because I've taken similar tours when I first came to Boston, and I didn't learn nowhere near as much. So we were in for a treat today randomly. Let me show you just a little bit around. I'll show you a little bit how I took the bus tour. I can jump right next to the next one, which I'm probably going to do myself because you can hop on, hop off. And the ghost tour is at 9 p.m. today. And there's 15 seats available. Amazing. And I'll show you the map so we know where we walk through. Michelle says she was great. Best is British says she was mint. If you're watching, hit that like button. Yes, hello, B. Griffin. Jackie says definitely not boring. I agree. Nope, I really enjoyed that. As I mentioned, it's a pretty unique time. And let me put the camera down for a little bit. I'm carrying a lot of stuff because I haven't been to my Airbnb yet. And I'll stay on for 5 more minutes to answer any of your questions about, I don't know too much, off the top of my head about Boston yet. We're going to discover it almost all together this upcoming week. Daily, 1 p.m. until Monday. Live videos daily until Monday. And let me cross the street over here, actually. Let me go here to the park. There we go. There's some benches here. Maureen was amazing. Highly, highly agree. And feel free to ask me anything about getting to Boston or my first impressions of Boston. I'll give you my first impressions. I am absolutely blown away. I came here, as I mentioned, a little bit more than 10 years ago. I think it was around 15 years ago. I was pretty young. I was a teenager. And I wasn't yet super into history, at least on a deep level, especially American history. I wasn't super into it. But coming here, I was blown away. Just my first impression is gorgeous city. It seems very walkable. Most of the tourist sites are within a 2 square mile radius, which is 2 Hobokens, or like a half of Manhattan, which is not that bad, which is pretty good. And I'm also really stunned by the mix of architecture. There's a mix of old style architecture, like we have right behind me, which is this like cool restaurant. And then over there, we have a lot of new style. We have a lot of new skyscrapers, which is, to me, feels like you take lower Manhattan, you take the financial district, and just make it 5 times larger. That's what Boston feels like to me. Michelle says, I love hearing that. I'm biased, but I think Boston is an amazing city. Yeah, another thing is, I think the reason why the tour guide was so good is I think I'm under the impression that Boston takes its tour guides very seriously. I saw a few videos on YouTube researching for this trip, and a lot of them, the videos I saw, were very, very good tour guides. They had excellent storytelling, and they were very passionate about what they're talking about. So maybe tour guiding and storytelling about Boston's history is taken a little bit more seriously than other cities like New York. Maybe it's more like London, where they're also extremely passionate about telling good stories about London. Also, this feels a lot about London. How far to the Airbnb? Not super far. I'm pretty close. I will reveal everything. I'll reveal the Airbnb and my neighborhood the very last day. The very last day I do videos, which I think I'll be here until Monday. So I'll show you Monday the neighborhood I'm in and also the Airbnb. And thank you for your time. Learned a lot. Do they have a Boston Tea Party shop? Yeah, the Boston Tea Party shop was like in the middle of the tour, and they do include a Boston Tea Party museum experience or like a show along with one of the tickets. My ticket was $30, and I used the Groupon app. Groupon app. And I can take off my mask. Pretty far away from everyone. Luckily, the city's pretty empty, so I might not need to wear the mask as much as I used to. And if anyone's interested in taking the Duck Duck tours and the Ghost tour, let me know. I'll do my best if it's possible to do a live stream on them. Maybe put on notifications, maybe tonight. I'm not entirely sure, but put on your notifications just in case. And what train station did you come in? I came to the Boston South station from New York Penn Station all the way to Boston South Station, which is the terminus for the Amtrak line that comes from New York. And that was a 50-minute ride. It wasn't that bad. Irish pub tour. That I'm not entirely sure. If anyone has any good recommendations, let me know. And I like to see both the duck tours and the ghost tours. And a plane just drives so you can get to places faster. Not here. Boston appears to be a place with very tiny streets, which is great for someone like me. I really love walking. I assume a lot of you also tune in are a fan of walking to a certain extent. So it's a great city for walkability. It seems like it, just being here for the past like 3 hours. And I used to work near South Station, says Michelle. And how much was the train ticket? I paid $118 round trip. Amtrak here is expensive compared to Europe. It was $69? No, I paid more. I paid $79 for this one way from Penn Station to New York on business class, and it was a little bit more express. So rather than 4 hours and 20 minutes, it was 3 hours and 50 minutes, which is not that big of a difference. And actually, it is kind of a difference. After you're in the train after 3.5 hours, it starts feeling very long. Compared to Europe, that train ride will only be 2 hours if this was in Europe. What was the cost of the tour? $30, 30 US dollars. I used the app Groupon. Their ticket price on the kiosk is $43. So you save $13. And Veronica says $110 I'll drive. Yeah, driving is quicker. It is quicker than taking the train. And Amtrak has no competition. No, they don't. Hence the, hey. No, they don't. That's why they make it very expensive. And I think that's all. Was it better to take the train or driving? I don't drive, so I came here with my family via driving. Driving is quick. If you enjoy driving, it's quick from New York City. I took the train because I don't want to drive. I don't want to rent a car. I don't own my own car. I don't want to rent a car, so I decided to come here by train. But it was pretty easy coming by train. Long, but pretty easy. So we got 2 super chats. Thank you so much, Deanna, $5. Thank you so much. Part of this tour was sponsored by you. For the super chatters, the PayPalers, the patrons, the supporters, and everyone who gives support in some way or the other. Boston is a possibility because of all of you. That's how I can show you the city and show you the trolley tour, potentially other tours, and definitely show you around the city this upcoming week, including Salem, Massachusetts in this upcoming Friday. Okay, let me answer quickly your last few questions. 2-minute lightning round. Please consider pressing love or like button for Ariel. Yes, please, that'll be awesome. This is what I carried with me. It's not that much baggage. I have camera equipment with me, you know, my Facebook Live equipment and my vlog camera with me, but you can easily pack light if you're here for a few days. You can take the megabus as well. Yes, you can take the megabus. It is much cheaper. It is actually quicker. I didn't do it due to COVID, I think. I did not want to risk being stuck in a packed bus. I don't know what the protocol is right now with the buses, but I just did not want to risk it. And that's why I took an Amtrak, and the Amtrak was pretty empty, and also their protocols is to fill it up, I think, until 25% capacity, which is very little. And Salem, and am I late to the show, Ruby? Yes, you are. It's about to finish. And you can, let's see, too many damn ways to get here. Yes, that's exactly why I took the Amtrak instead, says Seth. Yep. For COVID reasons, it seems to be the easiest, the most stress-free. Please consider pressing that love button, says Gwen. Thank you so much, Gwen. Are you going to Harvard? Yes. Harvard will be Thursday. Tomorrow, historic Boston, a lot of the Freedom Trail. Thursday, Harvard, or Harvard. I won't do too much of the Boston accent, but I do find it fascinating as well. And it's not mispronunciation. Remember, whenever you hear the Boston accent, just like people might hear my New York accent, my more modern New York accent, it's not mispronunciation, it's an accent. It's a different way of pronouncing. So Thursday, Harvard, Friday, Salem, Saturday and Sunday, still not yet known. Monday is going to be the neighborhood I'm staying at, which also has a lot of history. Ever did the aquarium? No, I never went to the aquarium. Am I going to MIT? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe on that Harvard video, maybe right after that Harvard video, I'll do the aquarium video. So I'm gonna park the car and have a yacht. That's the sentence you say in order to learn the Boston accent. I'm going to park the car and have a yacht. Fenway, you will see. I will do my best to pass by Fenway. Yes, probably the weekend you'll see Fenway. And you'll see the Greenway, definitely I think on the weekend as well. And glad you made it to Faneuil Hall. Yes, you'll see it more in detail tomorrow. I'm carrying too much baggage, so I don't want to do any more walking. And Amtrak is a better choice, says Judith. Indeed, it is. And I took Amtrak from New Orleans to New York. I love the train because you can walk around. Oh, that's good to hear that you took it to New Orleans. And I think I might have missed questions, but if I did, feel free to ask on these future live videos. One more time, Wednesday 30th to Monday 5th, daily at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday 30th to Monday 5th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And also feel free to follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you want to lend your support, you can do so. Best way is either Patreon or PayPal. You can lend your support so I can cover more food and more interesting history, and there'll be random videos including the classic Boston clam chowder, some Boston cream pie, or maybe Boston cream donut, maybe one of those two. We'll be doing a bunch of other things. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go now to my Airbnb, settle down a little bit, and maybe there'll be random other live videos throughout the day or throughout this week. So press that notifications button on YouTube or put on notifications on Facebook. Everyone, keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. And remember to park the car and have a yard. Have a great day, everyone.